Hi, and welcome to this latest live oral training video. And to start with, I just want to explain a few new rules. In the past, we've had some live stream oral training, and the thing is that I want some interaction from yourselves so that we can actually participate one amongst the other. Okay, one moment, if you can excuse me. I left the volume on my computer and I'm getting a feedback from it, so just give me a second and I'll shut that off. There we go, that's that done. Right, now, the rules of this live interactive oral training. I want participation from yourselves. In the past, when we've had a live stream oral training, at the beginning, the first 5 minutes maybe, there's been very little participation, and then it warms up and everyone seems to enjoy it a lot more. It's sort of like a competition between everybody where someone tries to get into the answer first before the others. So, if you could introduce yourselves now in the live chat, that would be great. Another thing that I want to mention is that if you have started this video maybe a little bit late, then don't watch it from the beginning. Okay, you can always watch it from the beginning later on, but from the point where it's actually live is the only place where you're going to be able to participate. So, if you started late, fast forward to the live point so you can participate with what we're doing. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to have a mix of the styles of the Trinity Aural tests and the ABRSM oral tests. Now, in Trinity Aural tests, they tend to use one piece and ask lots of questions about that piece. Whereas in the ABRSM oral tests, they tend to have different pieces and ask different questions for each piece. So what I'm going to do is ask ABRSM style questions, but all for one particular piece. So the piece you're going to hear in a minute is going to be repeated a few times, and you'll get a bit more familiar with it. Now, the first thing I'd like you to do is to just describe any notable features about this piece. Okay, in grade 8 ABRSM oral, the requirements for a grade 8 oral test that I'm reading from the official syllabus is to describe the characteristic features of a piece played by the examiner. After hearing the piece, the candidate should describe any notable features such as texture, structure, character, style and period, etc. And the examiner will prompt the candidate with questions only if this becomes necessary. So, in grade 8, you are not given direct questions. The examiner is just looking for you to be able to just elaborate on what you've heard, to have a bit more musical maturity. You could mention anything. The list there I just read out. Texture, the structure, the character, the style or the period of the piece, or even some of the things from the lower grades, maybe what the time signature is, the tonality, the dynamics, the articulation. So in the chat alongside, please do point out anything that you notice about this piece to start off with, and then we'll ask some more specific questions later. Okay, don't be shy. This interactive oral training gets a lot more fun if people participate. So here is the piece. Right, now we have 5 or 6 people watching at the moment. Would anyone like to make some comments about what they just heard? Can you describe the texture, the structure? Okay, Sonia D, it was a lovely piece. Now, that would come under, going into those descriptions again, a lovely piece, the character of the piece. Now, Sonia D, you said a lovely piece. Can you elaborate a little bit more? What made the piece lovely? All right, because when you're going into the previous grades, when you're talking about the character of the piece, one of the questions that they ask in, I think it's grade 4 oral, is what in the music gives this piece its character? What is it about the music? Okay, so a lovely piece. Why? Okay, now David Way says it sounds romantic and it's slow, so the tempo is fairly slow and it's romantic. Now, do you mean romantic in its character or from the romantic period? That'll be interesting for you to answer that. Okay, now the melodic line was bright and clear, and lots of emotion. So, okay, let's get down to some more specifics. Okay, this is just a little bit of practice for anyone who is doing about the grade 8 oral tests. You have to be able to describe notable features about the music, and through this live stream you'll get some ideas of what sort of things you could mention. So, David, you were saying that it's the character of the piece that sounds romantic. Okay, now some more specifics. One of the tricky things, and this goes for all the way from grade 3 up to grade 8, is being able to distinguish between 2-time, 3-time and 4-time. Now in grades 1 and 2, the difference between grade 1 and grade 2 is quite between 2-time and 3-time is quite easy to distinguish, because 2 beats in a bar and 3 beats in a bar are very different, but 2 beats in a bar and 4 beats in a bar have a very similar feel to them. So see if you can work out, is it in 2-time, 3-time or 4-time? And we had one other little comment about the general notable features: repetitive bass part contrasted with a brighter melody. Yeah, this type of bass, for your information, is called an Alberti bass. Yeah, it's just a little rippling, it's like a chord broken up into little sections. Anyway, let's go on to that question about the timing. 2-time, 3-time and 4-time. Okay. Do we have any answers yet? Not yet, so I'll carry on. Okay, how many beats in a bar? 2, 3 or 4 beats in a bar? We have some participants at the moment, so anyone want to give me an answer there, and we can see who can get into the answer first, because this has become quite a popular feature of these live streams. It's like a competition to who can get to the answer first. How many beats in a bar? Polly Webb has joined us, and Sonia D and David Way. David, you have the correct answer. It's 4 beats in a bar. Thank you. And Why is it 4 beats in a bar rather than 2 beats in a bar? I'm just going to play you just the first couple of phrases, 4 in a bar, and then again 2 in a bar, and see if you can hear the difference. That was 4 in a bar. Can you hear the difference? The 2 in a bar is a little bit more march-like. 1, 2, 1, 2, with an emphasis every 2 beats. Whereas the 4 in a bar, I'm just scrolling down the comments here because they're going out of sight. The 4 in a bar has that emphasis only once every 4 beats. It's a very subtle difference, and because 2 divides exactly into 4, that can confuse some people. Okay, now a very simple grade 1 question without playing it again. I'm sure you could tell me about the dynamics and articulation. First of all, was the piece mainly legato or staccato? Very simple question for grade 1 candidates. Maybe it's too easy for you to even want to answer. And whilst you're thinking about that, yes, legato, of course. Polly Webb got in there first. Okay, competition time now. 1, 2, 3 in a row, but Polly Webb's first on the chat here. Okay, and the dynamics. Now, there were a lot of changes in dynamics, and I wouldn't ask you specifically about every single one. But can you remember where the loudest part of the music was? Would it be in the beginning, the middle, or the end? Wait a moment. In the middle. David Way got in there first. Okay. But then the changes in dynamics, generally, would you say they were gradual or sudden? This is sort of a grade 1, grade 2 that type sort of question for oral training. Gradual changes. Okay, David. Now, those are quite easy. Right, now, these interactive oral sort of videos are trying to help you with ABRSM, but one of the main things in ABRSM is singing and then sight singing as you get to the higher grades. Obviously, we can't have interactive singing oral training because I can't hear you sing, and neither can the other people who are participating. Trinity's way around that is to do more on interval training between notes. And at the very basic amount, in the early grades, they ask you to say whether the note at the end of a phrase was lower or higher than the one at the beginning. So here's like a grade 1 Trinity-ish type question, okay? Is the note at the end of this phrase lower or higher than the note at the beginning? I'll play it to you again. Was that last note lower or higher than the one at the beginning? Don't worry, the questions will get harder, but I'm just trying to make this video suitable for all levels, okay? Okay, higher. Polly Webb got in there first, okay? Sometimes some people have a faster internet connection and so they can get in quicker. But, okay. Now, another question that comes up, I think, is in grade 2 for ABRSM, is the tonality of the piece. That means whether it's major or minor. So, can you describe the tonality of this piece? Okay, whether it changes at all or stays the same, or, well, you tell me. Major or minor? First of all, did the piece start in a major or a minor key? And then, did that stay in a major or minor key, or did it change throughout the piece? We'll just give a moment for your internet connections to catch up. Okay, now, Polyweb says it's a major but changed throughout. Okay, so you're saying it went to a minor key. Did it go back major, minor all the time? Or was there a larger section that was in a minor key, and then what happened after that? You are correct, Polyweb, but a little bit more specific we're looking for here. Okay, now, this section here is still in the major key. And that's gone to a minor key. Stays minor. And then back to major. Okay, so there are basically a major outline with a minor episode in the middle. That's what we were looking for. Now, let's go a little bit higher gradage now, okay? Cadences and chords. One of the things you have to do in both Trinity and ABRSM is to recognize cadences. So I'm going to play this little phrase here. Okay, now, is this a perfect, imperfect, plagal, or interrupted cadence? There's a trickier question. And if you can get that, could you tell me what the last two chords were? We have perfect cadence, plagal cadence, interrupted, or imperfect. I didn't say the fourth one. Okay, just play it to you again. That would be a tonic triad. What type of cadence did it finish that phrase on? Some little bit of a hesitation in your answers. Now, maybe you are doing different grades and you haven't come to this type of question at the moment. So, actually, if you could let me know in the comments below, what grades are you actually studying? Because if I'm asking questions that are aimed at a higher grade, then that's not so useful for those that are listening right now. This is an interactive live oral training rather than something to be watched later by those who might be doing grade... so David's doing grade 4. You wouldn't have come across cadences yet. Okay, and what about Sonia and Polyweb, sorry. I couldn't see the name properly. What sort of grade levels are you on so that you can, or anyone else watching, so we can structure these questions a little bit more towards what you are studying? Anyone want to give me an idea? Because I can go a little bit more towards, now, Polyweb is grade 8, but not very good at oral. So yes, you should be doing cadences. Come on, Polyweb, give us a stab. What cadence was that? I'll play it to you one more time. Play your key chord, tonic triad first. And then... perfect, imperfect, interrupted, or plagal. I'll remind you, yes, it's a perfect cadence with a question mark you put. You are correct, be confident in that. Perfect cadences sound finished, like they have a full stop at the end of a phrase. And it is chords 5 to 1. Excellent. Okay, right, we've got an answer eventually. Now, another thing you have to do from the top half of the grades upwards is to talk about the structure of a piece. Okay, the structure is how the sections are put together. Okay, so some simple answers might be like binary or ternary, binary being an A-B form and ternary being A-B-A form. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if you can remember the whole piece. It'll give you a chance to answer anyway, but can you tell me what the structure and maybe the texture of the piece is? Texture is not so much how the sections are put together one after the other, but the layers. So like 2 parts, 3 parts, homophonic, polyphonic, those sort of questions. Okay, so homophonic would be chords with accompaniment. Polyphonic would be different voices interweaving with each other. Have a listen. So texture and structure is what we're listening out for this time. I'll play the whole piece through, give you a chance to think about your answers, but add to the chat as soon as you're ready. There we go. Holyphonic. Do you mean homophonic or polyphonic? You've got a mixture between the two there, David. Homophonic is basically the tune with an accompaniment, and polyphonic is interweaving voices, where both voices or all 3 voices or however many there are equally important. They collect question and answer each other. That would be polyphonic, literally meaning many sounds, many voices. Okay. And also don't forget to tell me about the structure of the piece, how the different sections relate to each other. Homophonic is correct. It is a homophonic piece. But would you say it's chords with accompaniment? That's also homophonic. Can you talk about the texture in terms of how many lines there are? Is it just chords that are accompanying, or you mentioned it earlier, what's that special name for the bass line? Do you remember you said there was a tune with an Alberti bass line? Okay, that's it, not chordal. Correct. Right, now no one's yet had a stab at the structure of the piece. I think we have answered sufficiently the question about the texture of the piece, but what about the structure? How many different sections are there and how do they relate to each other? You could say simply binary or ternary. 2 sections A and B, or ternary A, B and then back to A again. What is the structure of this piece? Okay, ternary, yes. You spelt with an E. Good stab. But in the exam, in the oral test, you don't have to spell it, so don't worry. Ternary, T-E-R. Yes, it's an A-B-A, because at the end, you have the same tune as you had at the beginning. So that is 3 sections, A-B-A. Good. Okay. Now, we already mentioned the character of the piece a little bit. Someone right at the beginning of the comments mentioned that it was a lovely piece, it was romantic. Okay, can we sort of use some musical terms though to describe the character of the piece? Because in the exam, what they're looking for is, okay, you talk about the emotions of the piece, but then you use musical features that give the piece its character. So for example, a happy piece might have a fast tempo with lots of staccato notes and bouncy, and it might be a 3/4 time. It gives it a dance-like character. Okay, now what musical features in this piece give it its character, which we sort of hinted at the beginning, but not really explored a lot? It will involve some of the answers you've already given, but it's just the way that they formulate that question that you need to get used to. What musical features give this piece its character? For example, is it legato or staccato? And then, would you say it's generally a fast piece or a slow piece? Okay, the gradual crescendo in the middle of the piece adds to the emotional aspect. Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's got a sort of an intensity in there, hasn't it? Okay. Right, now you probably can't see it very clearly on the screen, and you're not really supposed to in the oral test see the music, but I'll give you a little clue. This piece is actually entitled simply Song. So what musical features give this piece a song-like character? I want you to think about what you need to do when you're singing. At the end of each break, yes, okay. Oh, we have a new participant. Someone who's just joined. You can't answer because you haven't heard the piece yet, you've just joined. Fair enough, okay. Just for the sake of, I'm just trying to read your name there, Hanfakri? Hanafakri. Tell me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but I'll play you a couple of phrases only, okay? So what musical features give this piece its song-like character? I've given you half the answer. It's sort of song-like. Legato, yes. Now, this is a little bit thinking outside the box. In a major key, yeah. And when you're singing, you need to breathe. Now, I want you to listen very carefully what happens at the end of each phrase. It's sort of like the music breathes between the phrases. I did slightly overemphasize it a little bit more that time just to get you to hear it, but that's something else you could mention. Okay. Now, I think it's grade 5, correct me if I'm wrong, but as you get about halfway through the grades, you have to start talking about the style and the period of the music. Right, so the periods of music that you could choose from are Baroque, classical, romantic or contemporary music, 20th century usually or 21st century. All right, and it seems to be, and I mentioned this in my latest weekly podcast, that the style and period is a thing that a lot of people find quite tricky to recognize because it actually happens to be the most popular video in terms of watch time on this channel of all the videos in a particular given month. All right, most people are watching that video more than any other in this channel. recognizing the style and period of a piece of music. So from what you can remember what I played, I could start playing it again, but maybe someone could have a stab at an answer. Baroque, classical, romantic, or contemporary? And also, when you're answering that question, the examiner will be looking for you to give a reason why you give that particular answer. Okay? So, I'll start playing it again and I'll occasionally glance around if anyone has commented and we can see who gets to the answer first. Still waiting for an answer. And we have an answer. Right, a new participant, Peter Aitken, romantic. Sounds a bit like Chopin Etude. Okay, you are correct, romantic. And whether it sounds like a Chopin Etude or not, that's not exactly what the examiner would be looking for. Musical features, again, that you can use to say why something sounds from the romantic period. Now, there are various different features that are peculiar to each period. For example, there's something I'm using an awful lot of just now that you would not find definitely in Baroque music and not quite so often in classical music. I'm going to play it without that. Oh, you did it already, Polyeb. Okay, this would be more classically played. Yeah, and here is romantically played. Okay, yes, the use of the sustain pedal is a big feature in the romantic period. You do get touches of it in Mozart and Beethoven in the classical period, but it's that much more intense. Any other features of this music that are peculiar to the romantic period? Okay, I'll play that phrase again, once classically and the second time romantically. And apart from the sustain pedal, can you notice any other differences? Here is the classical version. And here is the romantic version. It's a different style of playing completely. But what exactly was different? What could you hear that was different? There's a lot more dynamic variation. Yes, that is true. In classical music, though, you do get graduation is soft to louder, yeah. In classical music, you do get crescendo and diminuendo. What do you mean by the phrases, Peter? In the exam, that wouldn't suffice as a full answer. Can you be a little bit more elaborate? What do you mean by the phrases? I'm going to give you a little bit of a clue here. Tempo. Do you want to hear it again? See if we can get it. Classical version. Romantic version. sounds, two in the phrases. Rubato, that's the word I'm looking for. Well done, Peter. Yes, there is a lot more use of rubato in the Romantic period. You can hear that ebbing and flowing of the tempo. It speeds up, and sometimes you just like sit on a note. Listen to this particular note here. That it's like delayed, and that's called rubato. Okay, you just pull a note out like a bit of chewing gum. Wouldn't be classical for that reason. Now, you mentioned about crescendo and decrescendo and the graduation in phrases. That wouldn't eliminate it from classical, and you would get that in Romantic music, but that would be a reason for saying it wasn't Baroque. Okay, Baroque music tends to have what they call terraced dynamics, so you just go up in steps or down again. All right, so there we are. That's the character of the piece. Now, if you're going for the higher grades, another thing which we can't test directly here, but we'll do something a bit different, which we did last week. If you're doing for the higher grades, from grade 4 onwards, you have to start doing some sight singing. Okay? And the easiest way to develop sight singing skills is to be able to hear intervals, which is what the Trinity College oral tests do. They give you 2 notes and you have to say the interval between them. Okay, because if you can hear that a note is a sixth, you're quite likely to be able to sing the sixth above this first note. Okay, so here are 2 notes from, I'll play the first half of the first phrase. Now, those last 2 notes, can you tell me what that interval was? Those of you who are doing grades, okay, in grade 4 you don't have intervals quite that large, but from grade 6 onwards you have to be able to sing anything up to an octave as an interval from a previous note. I'll play it again. It is a fifth. Now, I had one person ask me, can you do like a naming notes exercise? So, a little bit of theory for you. If that was an F, what is the name of the second note? Okay, we've had a comment from Hannah Fakri, who's asking, can we give tips for the sight reading and sight singing? Well, I do have plenty of other videos on the channel about sight reading, and you might want to have a look at those. It's not something we can do so much interactively, sight reading tests, but I've got plenty of videos, so you have a little look on the channel and you'll find some. Sight singing is exactly what we're doing now, but in an interactive way, so hearing the intervals. Okay, so if the first note was an F, and Peter rightly told me that the second note was a fifth above, it's a C, of course. Let's give you another example. Okay, let's find something more interesting. Right, in this phrase, now, the last 2 notes there. If you've got a very good ear, you can actually name those 2 notes, because you've just heard that Peter was saying that the last note I played you in the previous phrase was a top C. Now, see who's got the really good ear here. You can either just name the interval or just tell me the 2 letter names of those 2 notes. This will be a test to sort the men out from the boys, or the women out from the girls. I'll play them to you again. What is the interval, or if you prefer, what are the names of the 2 notes? Maybe some people's internet connection's a little bit on the slow side, so Okay, now we got a C at the top. Hannah Fakhri said C at the top, but the first note was not an A. All right, David Way, a C and an E. I'm assuming you mean the other way round, where the E comes first, and that would be the correct answer. Well done. So, that was quite a tricky question. And if you can hear intervals, one of the good things about hearing intervals is it's going to help with sight singing. It's not tested in ABRSM directly, but it is tested when they give you these little passages to sing, and you've got to be able to hear a sixth or a fifth above any given note. So it's a nice little exercise. For example, if you're doing grade 4, okay, and you can give yourself little oral tests, doing grade 4 and you've got the simple little sight singing tests in free time. So you just play yourself a middle C, and then you say, right, I'm going to sing that C, bum, and then sing the step above it, bum, then go back to the C, bum, and try and sing the third above it, bum, and you could test yourself in that sense, okay? You're hearing intervals. Okay, now, another thing that comes in, I think it's a grade 7, is modulations. All right, now you can get modulations to the dominant, to the subdominant, to the relative minor or the relative major in grade 8, I think it is. So I'm going to play you again the first 2 phrases. And can you tell me, right, here is your key chord, which is, by the way, F major, if it helps. Now, can you tell me what key we arrive in at the end of the second phrase? What have we modulated to? Dominant, subdominant, or relative major or minor? What was that modulation? Dominant, subdominant, or relative major or minor? Giving you a moment for your answers. A modulation to the dominant will have a sort of a lifting feel in the harmony. And a modulation to the subdominant, the opposite. It'll have a sort of a sinking feeling in the harmony. Okay, and then there is the modulation to the relative major or minor. Now in this case the piece is in a major key, so I'll give you the fact that it can't be a modulation to the relative major because it's already in the major. Okay, so it could be the relative minor, it could be the dominant, and it could be the subdominant. Pick one of those. Polyeb, be brave. What did it feel like to you? The easiest one to eliminate first, if it's yes or no, is relative minor. Now, at the end of that phrase, I'll play it to you again. Did it sound like it went to the minor? If it did, you've got your answer. If it didn't, you've only got 2 left to choose from. Let's try it. Okay, so first of all, decide that last chord. Well, it wasn't actually a chord, it was a single note, but the tonality was suggested. Was it major or minor? Okay. Did it stay in a major or did it go to a minor? It stayed in a major. That means we've got 2 to choose from. Dominant or subdominant modulation. Okay, so did you feel the harmony lifting, which would be a modulation to the dominant, or did you feel the harmony sort of sinking, which would be a modulation to the subdominant? Now, interesting answer, which is what I expected. Subdominant from Peter and subdominant from Polyeb. Okay, the tune goes down. That is correct. All right. But the harmony goes goes up. Now I'll show you what I mean. You're thinking, oh, I can't get this, it's too difficult. Okay. You're in F major, and to modulate to the dominant key would be C major. Okay. In C major, there is no B flat like there is in F major. So that B flat turns into a B natural. Now I want you to listen out for that change. Can you feel that's raised from what it normally is? Yeah? If I didn't modulate, we'd have a B flat there. Maybe it sounds a bit strange for the harmony, but it's gone up to the B natural, so the harmony goes up. Okay? Another way of doing this is to listen out for the bass note. Okay? Right, here is your key chord. Is your tonic at the beginning. Alright? Now, when you get to the second phrase, bom is your new tonic. The first tonic was bom and dum do dum bom. 4 notes lower, which is the dominant, is your new tonic. So it's a modulation to the dominant. I know it's tricky. Okay. Let's try a different one. Again, the same 3 options. Dominant, subdominant, or relative minor. Now let's find this passage. Let's carry on. Right, I'll stop there. What sort of modulation was that? Relative minor. Now that's the easy one because you can hear it's in a minor key, isn't it? So if it's not the minor, then you've got 2 options left. Okay. Right, now that is basically going through almost all the sort of different oral questions I can think of that would be in pretty much all of the grades, for grades 1 to 8, all from one piece. I hope you found that useful, and if you have, we'll be doing another live stream in a couple of weeks' time, and this one will be going on to a playlist which, is it there? Let's just see. Yes, if you go to the tops of your screen, let's see, is that pointing in the right direction? The little eye at the top. No, I'm pointing to the wrong way because the camera's the other side, so I'm just pointing that side. Yeah, the little eye at the top of the screen, and you click on there, it will bring up my blog page where you can see the previous live streams. Now, if you've missed the first part, obviously you can go and watch it back from the beginning. It will stay live on this channel for the rest of the time until I do another live stream, but then it gets archived in a little playlist which you can find on my blog. Just go to that little eye at the top of your screen, and there'll be a link there to the previous live streams, and you can sort of practice some of the things that we did previously. Also, I would let you know that all the comments that you've made now, YouTube has got this new feature that the chat is saved on the video. So all the comments you made today, you can look back over and see how your answers went. The next live stream will be in a couple of weeks' time. I'm trying to work out the best timing to suit my subscribers the best. So this was a lot later. Previously I did them at 2 o'clock British time, and today it started at 8 o'clock British time, so a difference of 6 hours. I'm seeing if it's more popular at this time of the day or earlier in the day. But that'll be a bit of experimenting, so I'm not going to give you an exact time. I might play around with it till we find the best time for everybody, okay? A couple of other little things. If you fancy supporting this channel and want to get, see yourself in a t-shirt like this, we have an exclusive to MusicOnline UK Senyo t-shirt for supporters of MusicOnline UK, and I think there's a link in the description below. I'll double check after I've closed this video. and maybe you could see yourself in one of these. And then finally, I'd just like you to thank you for participating and for watching. It's great to be able to have this live interaction with you so that we can help each other, okay?